I went to a gravel race this past weekend, and as I always do at events, I made a point of looking at, what else? Bikes. One thing that stood out was the number of 2x setups I saw. Now, I didn't do a count, but just going on observation, I would say it was like a 60-40 split in favor of 2x. And when you see a double chainring and a front derailleur on an off-road bike these days, there's a 90% chance that bike is running Shimano. Again, this was gravel, and in gravel, you are more likely to see bikes with 2x than at a mountain bike event, but still, Shimano was all over the 2x bikes at the Rock Cobbler event in Bakersfield.
It's funny how just a few years ago, there was this sort of conspiracy effort to kill off the front derailleur. Not by Shimano, but yeah, there was some marketing out there that was really trying to push front shifting out the door. Well, the riding public has spoken, and indeed, many of us still want front shifting, even off-road. And at the very least, riders want to have the choice. The GRX group set Hadi was seen all over Rock Cobbler comes in both 1x and 2x. Even Shimano's venerable XTR and XT groups come in both.
Yeah, Shimano knows, just like there's no one-size-fits-all, there is no one derailleur for all. So why would you want more moving parts on your Leadville bike? The two reasons are to make your shift jumps tighter, thus maintaining your preferred pedaling cadence. The other is drivetrain efficiency. See, the 2x system stays out of the extreme chain angles, and because the front derailleur also acts as a chain watcher, there's no need for a narrow wide chain ring and a heavy clutch on that rear derailleur. That means less resistance as the chain circles around those drivetrain components.
If you love 1x, that is great. And on mountain bikes, most of us do at this point use a single chain ring setup, but it is nice that Shimano offers both. To check 1x systems, 2x systems for gravel, mountain, and of course road, go to bike.shimano.com.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. Find them at bike.shimano.com. We're up to season 6, episode 4 now, the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I am Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
And I'm Fatty. We are now closer in days to Leadville 2023 than looking back to Leadville 2022. Think about that for a second. Okay, time's up. That shotgun blast is a little less than 6 months away. There's no reason to panic, although I am a little bit. That freak you out thing, Hottie says, you can take it with a tiny little grain of salt or a lot of salt if you prefer. But for now, yeah, 6 months.
As we edge closer to race day, especially in these final days of winter and into spring, you're going to hear Fatty and I harp a lot on getting your wardrobe ready. And you're saying, wardrobe? Shouldn't I be getting my body ready? Who cares what I'm wearing to the big dance? And you'd be right, but we want you to look good at that big dance. And to do that, you're going to want to get on that custom kit order sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and custom kits can sound like a daunting affair, and they can be, which is why we work with DNA Cycling. They have streamlined the process of kit design so that your jersey, your bibs, your colorways, all set up together, and they're all right there on the DNA website. If you have a little creative skill, awesome. You can submit your personal touches to the team at DNA, and they'll get the rest done for you. If you need help with that creative part, DNA can do all of that too.
And by getting on it now, you make sure that your cool kit is not only ready by race day, but you have it for those training days leading up to Leadville. By the way, one more thing on the design process. If you'd like to see how a particular jersey cut or bib type looks in action, check out DNA's YouTube channel. Fatty, I didn't know they had this, but it's a real great spot to see DNA clothings on riders in action on bikes and get an idea how the cuts and fabric fit and move.
Yep, very helpful to see things in real life on real riders. And getting started is super easy. Just head over to dnacycling.com, choose the custom apparel option, and be sure to let them know you found out about DNA from the Leadville show. Like we said at the top, we're closer to Leadville 2023 than 2022. And with that said, we are still remembering some of what we learned and heard from the 2022 edition. One was a story you may have seen on the participants page. It absolutely caught my eye. Sarah Bloom and Mark Wolfgang logged a Leadville for the ages. And we thought their experience could serve as a really great focal point and frankly, just a fun story as you prepare for Leadville 2023.
We all know the deal every racer makes with Ken Klober. I commit, I won't quit. That's a great one. But what happens if quitting is the safe thing to do? Is it possible to live up to your promise with Ken? Sara and Mark say, yes, you can.
Sara and Mark, it is great to have you in, I guess, a semi-live, semi-virtual setting for the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming us into your home.
It's great to be here in the podcast studio, and I can see the 2,000-mile Eldon buckle in person.
Yeah, it's huge.
If you're lucky, I will let you fry some eggs on it. It is, it's valuable for not just for wearing, but also as a cooking utensil. Hadi, of course, is in Los Angeles, but we wanted to talk with the two of you because you have had what I would call the most interesting Leadville-centric race first season ever.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment.
Sure is.
So I would say, let's start off by, tell us your story. In short, who are you and what have you done?
I'll go first. Okay. My name is Sara, and I got into biking kind of by default. I was living in Kailua Kona, which is the Ironman World Championship. And so I was a massage therapist working on tons of athletes. And I was kind of jealous that they were going out and biking hundreds of miles. So I bought my first bike, spent like $800 and thought it was the end of the world. I was like, oh my gosh, $800.
So much money.
Yes, so much. But that was in 2015. So I kind of come from a triathlon background. And then we moved to Colorado in 2020 and got more into mountain biking and no more triathlon, but now switching over to the dark side of things and out in the mountains. So
The dirty side of things.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, and I did triathlon in mid-2000s, did an Ironman Lake Placid in 2008, and then took a big break until I moved to Hawaii and met Sara. So we were both living there in Kona, and I met this really pretty girl that liked to bike a lot, and I was like, hey, I used to bike. So got a bike real quick and then started chasing her around on her super fast triathlon bike, and I could barely keep up with her, and that was just about 3 years ago. So as Sara said, we moved to Colorado, and I bought a mountain bike and started mountain biking about little over 2 years ago. And we did the Pikes Peak Apex stage, which is a 4-day stage race, but we did one stage of that last year with one of our friends, and it kind of reignited the racing fever. And since we finished that race, and that was only 35 miles, we said, hey, let's do Leadville next year.
That night, we're sitting in the hot tub. Mark's like, hey, let's do Leadville next year. And I was like, what is Leadville? I've heard of it a lot, but I didn't really know what the race was. And of course, we get on our phones and we're looking at the race series and we're like, yeah, let's shoot for that next summer. And we just dove right in. January 1st, started our training program with Cody Waite. I found him on Training Peaks, actually. And then we hired him as our coach. And every day since January 1st, we've been super dedicated together. And it's been really nice to have him as dedicated as me too, to kind of help each other along and stay focused.
Having a partner does make a huge difference in staying dedicated. Obviously Lisa and I, we rode together before we ever dated together. 13 years later, here we are still racing and training together. It keeps you honest. It also makes it so that there's never a question on, what do you want to do for date night?
Right. Yeah.
It's like a long ride is on the menu.
Exactly. Sure. Our birthdays are in July. And so it was like our biggest training week of the the whole entire block. And so it was like 17 hours that week. And so for both of our birthdays in that week, we just went and did super long rides. And it was pretty wonderful to just be able to go out and spend our birthdays together out on the road and chasing after the same goal.
And you have been chasing after the same goals, and I want to talk about that. So this is really your first year in a way of at least doing a lot of racing. Before this year, this calendar year, have you done additional mountain bike races, or is this your first year of mountain bike racing?
This is the first year of mountain bike racing specifically. I did Xterra Maui World Championships in 2018, but I hadn't really mountain biked a whole lot. It was just kind of by default because I lived in Hawaii and the race was an island hop over and I had borrowed a bike. And so this was really our first summer of focusing on mountain biking and the skills and things like that.
So what were the big events on your calendar this year? And then we're going to talk some more about each of them.
We spent the winter in Florida, so we only rode our road bikes in Florida. That's all we took there. So we did a few centuries there, flat. One century I gained 166 feet of elevation, which a lot of people think is funny. So we did a couple events we did Crooked Gravel, which is around mid-July, and then the next day we did Foco Fondo, it turned out to be 106 miles. But we didn't race those. We really tried to stick to Zone 2, which made them really long days. But we're really disciplined about sticking to our training plan. Even when we got back to Colorado in late April, we didn't really ride our mountain bike on all the fun technical trails because we were just trying to stay in the right zones, especially as we acclimated back from sea level to 8,000 feet.
Yeah. I guess racing wise, we just stuck to the Leadville race series, and those were like our A, B, and C races of the year. Like stage race, we definitely went for it. And Silver Rush was like A day, to go out and test the fitness.
You did the camp.
We did camp. Highly recommend the camp. It was such a good experience. Just the people, the energy, the community of Leadville, and the dinners every night. It was an invaluable experience for us. We highly recommend it.
So while mountain biking is relatively new to both of you, I mean, since you're both come from the triathlon community, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I mean, both of you get it, right? Like, because the one thing I've learned about triathletes is they are really focused on everything, whether it be bike or what swimsuit they're wearing or what watch they have on their wrist, and especially training. And they can be super focused on getting it done. Like, so that part was it a natural for both of you?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're both similar in a way that if we say we're going to do something, we're going to stick to it and put our heads down and get to the finish line or get to the goal. That's why Mark has been so successful with his business and everything like that. If he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And so, I guess coming from the triathlon background, that's definitely both in our personalities is to stick to it.
I will say that the first thing that Lisa and I trained on together was for the St. George Ironman.
Tough one. That's tough.
I mean, but it's real similar to the two of you. And I think that what Hadi was pointing to is in fact correct. I think tri-folks do naturally gravitate and do well at the Leadville 100 because you bring a sense of training discipline and gear awareness and the importance of, nutrition and everything, the things that you learn in tri, not necessarily the mechanical aspects, but the mental aspects definitely apply.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah, there's just a lot more to obsess about in triathlon because you've got 3 different sports to obsess about.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
I got some very dusty wetsuits in the garage. haven't used them in a while. So let's do sort of flash forward to the race series, and I actually did not know that the two of you started this season with doing the Silver Rush. As people who are new to, I think, high altitude racing and to mountain bike racing at all, your first real big race is what I would consider the most technical of all of the Leadville Race Series races. How did you enjoy that? How did that go for you?
Well, I decided early on in the day that, I learned that there was a coin at the top of the very first hill. And so I was like, I hadn't even done Leadville yet, right? But I was like, I know that I'm going to want to do it again next year. So I'm going to sprint to the top of that hill and get the coin. That was a really bad idea to do at the beginning of a 5-6 hour race because that made the rest of the day so hard. But I got my coin.
You did. Okay, so I want to point out, because not all listeners will know that the hill that you were talking about is a hill that you have to run up with your bike. It is a steep, twist your ankle type hill that is, I don't know, 100-yard sprint?
Yeah, 100 yards.
And just absolutely brutal. You won and got that coin.
Yeah.
So being someone with a history of running definitely played in your favor.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a good idea because then it'd be like, oh, the rest of the day isn't going to be stressful. But it made the rest of the day so hard. Like I felt like my heart rate just would not come back down. And we were pretty well acclimated by that point for sure. But I felt like my heart, even at like 155, it felt like a different 155 beats per minute because of that effort at the beginning. But yes, the rest of the course was, I love the descents though, the rocky descents and the climbing and stuff. It was more technical in some places, but overall a good race.
And the two of you currently live in Buena Vista, right? Which is pretty close to Leadville. I don't remember what the altitude is, but you're reasonably high altitude already.
Yeah,
right?
It's at 8,000 feet.
8,000 feet, yeah. So so the shift to 10 to 12 isn't as severe as if you had been training in Florida.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So tell me how you each did in the end. Were you both able to finish the Silver Rush?
Yeah, we both finished and we both had really great races. I think Sara got second in your age group or first.
I won my age group.
No, yeah, she ended up winning her age group, so she got a coin that way as well.
So I
anyways,
got my coin.
Even though she burned a lot of matches during the hill sprint. And yeah, otherwise we had a really great race. It was a very tough course. Well, it's only 50 miles, so how hard can it be compared to the 100? But
that is a hard 50, though.
Yeah, it's a hard 50.
Anyone who's ever done the Silver Rush, I mean, the tagline for it is, it's like the Leadville 100 without the easy parts, right?
Yeah.
Surprisingly, though, we've only both been mountain biking for a short period of time. We're really good on the descents. Sara has like some top 5 descents from Columbine of all time women, even beating tons of pros. And she's only, we've only done it like a few times. So we love the descending. And it was the first race of the year where we could really just race because otherwise we'd been holding back, keeping to training zones. So it was amazing to do that.
And so how did you do, Mark?
I did really well. Of course, I didn't place in my age group or something, but maybe top half or something. I don't even remember what my time was.
I think you were around a 5:20.
Yeah, 5:26,
He beat me
I
that
think.
day, for the record.
Yeah.
Mark beat me that day.
Yeah.
That is a very good time. I mean, for that race, that is a very good time. So you are brand new to mountain biking, but obviously showing some promise. I want to flash forward to the next race that you did, and actually where I met the two of you, and that would be at the stage race. My first recollection is of Sara saying "on your left" as she absolutely smoked me, blasting down Sugarloaf. So on the final day, Sara, I mean, this is your first year mountain biking, fine, but you obviously have some serious technical chops. I'm 25 years into mountain biking, and you passed me like this was the first year I'd ever been on a bike.
Well, honestly, I love Cushcore. It gives me a lot of confidence on the descents with the lower tire pressure. And we learned about that from your guys' show. I'm not saying that makes me a total fast descender, but it definitely gives you that extra confidence. With the descents, you can rim out a little bit, and I know I'm going to be okay. And just let go of the brakes and go for it. But I think just chasing Mark around, too, helps me a lot with the descents. Because he has no fear, this one.
Yeah, Sara, Mark. Otherwise, did you folks take any mountain bike skills classes, courses, coaching?
No, I really wanted to. We really wanted to take the Ninja mountain bike courses, but they were like 2 days and just couldn't fit it in. They were booked out. But no, I grew up in the 80s skateboarding and riding BMXs and tooling around.
Gotcha.
So I guess that helps. I don't know.
Sure. Any of it does. skiing, all of it. Yeah.
I would love to hear more about the Cush core because this is something that I have not used at all yet.
Well, listen to our show, Fatty, just like Sarah did. That's where she got the idea. Actually, I want to ask Sarah about the Cush core. Like, do you folks run it front and rear or only on the rear? I heard some writers saying, yeah, they put it on the rear, but not on the front. How about you folks?
So we have them on the front and the back, and I think I would switch that up and probably just do the back. I don't feel like I need it on the front. I don't. What do you think, Mark?
I have it on both front and rear as well, and I like it. I'm not concerned about the weight penalty. I'm not trying to win. I'm going for, it provides a damping or a comfort aspect in addition, or it supposedly does. So I run I'm 185 pounds and I run 14 in the front and 15 PSI in the back. And my suspension set up pretty well, I think. So that helps. It's a top to bottom thing from the tire pressure to the suspension that makes you comfortable enough to go fast.
Right. And then the Cush core just allows you to be aggressive in those downhill sections, which is why you passed Fatty, Sarah, as you can just let it go and not worry about a severe blowout. Now, tell us about bikes. Are you folks both on full suspension, hardtails? What do you folks like for bikes in that area?
Yeah, we're both on full suspension. Sarah has 100. She has a Specialized Epic, so that comes with 100 front and rear. And I have a Scott Spark, and that has 120 front and rear. So, yep, both full suspension.
And just dialing the bikes in right at the beginning of the year. Like we're not professionals by any mean on that part, but YouTube really helps you, and you can learn a lot. So we just sat in the garage and with our pumps and tried to set our suspension up properly, and it makes a big difference to have a bike that you feel comfortable on.
Tell me how, the stage race went for you. This is the first time that really you've done the entire course as a race. It is a 3-day race, but you still get a real sense for how the Leadville 100 is going to go for you. Sarah, I know on that third day that you passed me, what was your total time? What was your accumulated time for the stage race?
8:55. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think day one I was kind of holding back a little bit because I didn't really know what to expect as in terms of like how my body would hold up. But then I felt fine on day 2 and 3. So first time doing it though, the 9 o'clock starts in the morning, and seeing the course over 3 days, it's just bite-sized chunks where you can just go for it. And it is a lot of fun, that one.
It is. Everyone who does the stage race has sort of the same takeaway from it, that this, the Leadville 100 is awe-inspiring and epic and maybe even life-changing. The stage race is fun.
Fun.
And it is really nice to do a race that is fun. I mean, what a concept. Mark, how did your stage race go?
It was awesome, and I love the whole experience because you see people over 3 days and you get to make friends and chat to people. And I ended up doing like a 8:46,
nice.
Which was, fast for me. And I was really, really happy with it. It's so much easier to race for, 3 hours the first day, 2 hours the next day, and 3 hours the next day or something than, 10 plus hours or however long the 100 takes you. So
you both did great. And then I sort of, with that in mind, let's take a look at the Leadville 100 itself. And I think, honestly, this is why I wanted to get the two of you on the show, because you had kind of wildly different experiences during the Leadville 100. So, Sarah, your story first.
Okay. Going into the race, I think the best part of the day for me is that my dad came to support us, and he came out. I did Ironman Hawaii in 2019 too. So my best memories from races are always because my family comes and they support me. So when I look back at the race, that's what I remember. But I guess within the race, I messed up my nutrition a little bit, made me sick and nauseous for a while. But then I was able to turn it around on the inbound at Pipeline. So I guess for the last 30 miles, I felt great. The first 70, I didn't feel so great. But to be able to turn it on at 7 hours in, I was super proud of that. And the day is going to throw so many different things at you, and to just be able to keep pedaling. There was this song, it's living easy and I'm easy living. So in my head, I was like, pedaling easy and I'm easy pedaling. I just kept singing that all day to my head. I was like, whatever, if people are going to pass me, that's fine. Just take your goals, throw them out, and just keep pedaling. And then at one point I looked at my clock, 9 hours in, I was like, I actually am going to be around 10 hours. And that was my guess. But if you would have asked me, I would have been like, it's 15 hours for sure. It's going to take me 15 hours to do this today. But you just keep going and that finish line will come up for you. But yeah, I think my best memory, though, also is just helping Mark on his redemption ride. But we'll let him tell that story.
Fatty, before we get to Mark's ride around the Leadville 100, we should mention that, folks, you may have heard of Mark before if you pay close attention to the participants page or anything about Leadville. Mark is the inventor of the Leadville Race Predictor app that you can use to predict your time at Leadville. And we're going to have Mark back to talk about how that thing works, how he came up with the idea, which is obviously related to their story here. We're not going to get into that here because it's a whole episode in itself. But suffice to say that the two of them were able to, after doing some of these race series races, they wanted to know, how fast they would go at Leadville. So Mark did invent this race predictor, and we're going to get into that with Mark in a later episode. You're going to want to, if you love data and analytics and any of that stuff, even if you don't, you're going to want to pay attention to that show when it does come out.
Yeah, for sure. This is the storytelling episode, kind of during the storytelling part of the season. But we are going to have a nerdy episode where we dig into, the fact that these two definitely do their homework as well, and some of the cool tools that Mark has developed.
You know what? I actually had a problem with an Envy wheel recently. Yes, it's true. My front wheel had to come off and go in for a repair. But the problem had nothing to do with Envy. See, my M50 wheels, which are now almost 10 years old, have non-Envy hubs, and it was the hub that was having problems. So while I had a problem with an Envy wheel, it was nothing that Envy could have done to stop it.
Yeah, Hadi, Envy has hubs of its own now, but back in the M50 days, I am pretty sure Envy was relying on other companies to supply hubs on their pre-built wheels. What Hadi's talking about here is that even after 10 years of use and abuse, Envy's rims are still the strongest link in his bike chain. I'm kind of mixing some metaphors here, but in addition to performance, that's what you are getting when you get a premium set of wheels from Envy. It's easy to find a less expensive set of carbon wheels out there, but consider Hadi's case. He's 10 years and going on his set. I have probably, I guess, a half dozen set of Envy wheels, and they all cost more than average, but they've more than paid me back in performance, reliability, and longevity, and that is why I will continue to put Envy wheels on all of my bikes, and they will be the wheels you will for sure see me racing on at this year's Leadville 100.
Here. And oh, by the way, I got my M50, and it's back in service, probably for another 10 years. You can sweat a lot of stuff when it comes to your Leadville bike build, but Fatty and I say if you can only go premium in one area, make your wheels that area that you go premium and make it a set of Envies. Check out Envy's wheels and other carbon components at Envy, that's ENVE.com.
Sarah Bloom and Mark Wolfgang are on with us, and we catch up with Mark's day on course, his setback, and his comeback. Mark, tell us about your day in the Leadville 100. I should say your first day.
Yeah, it didn't go exactly as planned. But in the beginning it was, and primarily looking back, it was for a couple of different reasons. I did the stage race and I did 8:46 in the stage race. So I didn't taper for the stage race. We were, had big training in our bodies. And obviously the stage race is a little bit shorter. But I kind of foolishly calculated my time around that same, I think I targeted like 9:08 or something. That was which is obviously kind of arrogant for your first Leadville 100. But I figured, I know I went slower in the stage race in this part. I know I could have gone faster. Anyhow, that's what I did. So I planned my nutrition based on that, those times. So my splits, I ended up, obviously it takes a lot longer to do the 100 in different sections for various reasons, a lot more people on the course. But I definitely went out a little bit too hot. It's such an exciting atmosphere. We were both in the Purple Corral, placed with fast riders. I thought the corral system worked really well. We all cleaned Kevins, and it was really great. First few hours went very well. And then I got to Columbine after Twin Lakes alternate aid station. got a fresh pack, and I'd only planned to take 2 hours for a round trip from Twin Lakes Alternate and back, and it ended up taking a lot longer because of the conga line. I couldn't have probably gone too much faster walking anyways because I had went out a little bit too hard. Anyhow, got back down to Twin Lakes Alternate, and I had been out of water for probably 45 minutes. So at least the goat trail and probably a little bit before the goat trail, I had no water or electrolytes or anything. So I got back to Twin Lakes Alternate. I was feeling okay, not great. And as soon as I took a sip of my new pack of Tailwind, it just hit my stomach, and my stomach just reacted immediately. And I just could not take in anything from a Twin Lakes Alternate to Pipeline. And I just felt sick. I felt really achy and just really struggled. I pulled over on the side of the road to try to throw up, couldn't throw up. Really struggled to get to Pipeline. Made it to Pipeline in about 7 hours and 11 minutes, and got with my crew and crew not exceptionally experienced at crewing. So the first thing they said is, I said, I don't know if I can continue. And the first thing they said is, you want a beer? And I was like, no, I don't want a beer. I need water. I'm dehydrated. I need to sit down and gather myself. But, I'm not necessarily in my right of mind. I went to the bathroom and it was pretty brown. And a guy with a Red Corral plate, I think his name was Steve, said that you might have rhabdo, you better be careful. And I heard thunderstorms brewing over power line, and I sat there for a bit just drinking water. In retrospect, I was not thinking properly, but I had almost 5 hours to finish still. So if, Sara was there or an experienced racer was there, and they would just say, sit down, eat, drink, take some electrolyte pills, and assess the situation in an hour, you still have plenty of time to finish. But that wasn't in my mind. I was just like, I'm not getting rhabdo. I'm not doing permanent damage to my body. Nothing's worth that. So I sat there for about 45 minutes, still didn't pee. And then I just, did the walk of shame and bummed a ride back to the finish line. I get back to the finish line, of course, and all the sub-9 guys are finishing. And, people are telling me congratulations because I'm pushing my bike. And that's just like a kick in the what. And I was like, man, I got to get out of these clothes as quickly as possible. So I raced back to my truck and got changed, and then got back to the finish line so I could make sure I was there for Sara. And Tamara saw me there, and I had met her at the camp and the stage race and the events, and I started crying behind my sunglasses, and she gave me a big hug and told me I was a badass and some sweet words. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, before we move on any further, Fatty, we should mention about rhabdo here. Rhabdomyolysis. In fact, Cody mentioned this to us when we did his breakdown about one of his athletes having this trouble, and that was Mark. So if you heard that show, yeah, we were talking about Mark with Cody, although he didn't mention your name, Mark, but it is Mark. So rhabdomyolysis is a serious condition, folks. It can be fatal if it gets really bad. Most athletes do get over it as long as they stop whatever they're doing. But one of the classic symptoms is like tea-colored urine, dark colored urine. And what's happening here is your muscle tissues are breaking down and they're releasing proteins and electrolytes into your blood. Bad situation. Bad things can happen to your internal organs when this goes on. And it's very important that if you have any of the symptoms, that you stop. Now, the only way to confirm that you have rhabdo is to go get tested. What they look for is creatine in your blood, which is a byproduct of all this protein getting released. But again, the classic signs are muscle pain, weakness, fatigue, dark discoloration of your urine. Those are the classic signs of exercise-induced rhabdomyolysis. Mark did the right thing here. Like, he stopped. And he did not, he said, I'm going to take the cautionary approach here and not be a badass and try to get back home to Leadville, because then really bad things can happen. Mark, did you ever get tested, or did you just call it a day and recover?
No, I didn't. My pee was clear by the end of the day. I had drank, plenty. I just popped in goo tabs and into my water and drank plenty. And it was clear the next day. So, it might have been like early onset or something, but I just didn't want to go there.
Yeah, and less severe cases can be treated that way, Fatty. You just drink fluids, get out of the heat, rest, and, most people are going to get out over it. But if folks look it up, there are some situations where athletes have gotten into trouble with this thing and ended up in the hospital. So again, Mark, you did the right thing there, and we're glad that you're here. I remember seeing you at the finish line, and you told me about what happened there and what you'd experienced at a pipeline, and you're obviously troubled and not happy about not finishing, but I could tell even then, even early on, you were relieved and you were glad you just said, look, I'm going to take the responsible approach here and just call it a day.
Yeah. I was in the military. I know how to get things done. And once I commit to something, I do it. But so it was very difficult to pull out. I mean, I know I could have finished, but was it worth it? And to me, it wasn't worth it.
But
so
it was worth it to try again.
Yeah.
And that is actually the story that Sara wrote it up, posted it in Facebook. I, of course, had met the two of you before, but that was the story that I was like, wow, that is sometimes, a gratification deferred story that just really caught my heart. So I want to hear about that. You a couple of weeks after, having to defer doing the Leadville 100, how did you get to the point where you're like, you know what, let's try again on our own?
Yeah, well, it was Saturday of the Leadville race, and Sunday, we took it easy, went to the hot springs and just laid around all day. And then Monday, I woke up just kind of filled with regret that I didn't complete this goal. And I knew I had the fitness to do it. I'd been training so well and so disciplined and going to bed so early every night. And I knew I had the fitness. And I messed up my nutrition. And I thought to myself, well, I live 35 miles south of Leadville. There's absolutely no way I'm going to wait until next year to try this again. If I need to do the course a couple or a few more times this year before the snow falls in order to, figure out what's wrong with nutrition and pacing, then I'll do it.
Right.
So I was prepared to do it a few more times. I didn't really tell Sara that, but so I told Sara that I want to do it again next week. So it was about 9 days after, and we picked a Monday so there wouldn't be too much traffic around Turquoise Lake Road. And we gathered a couple friends to ride some parts of the course with us. And Sara was the world's best crew, following me around all day, cranking music up. And, it was a completely different mindset. I was like, obviously, I'm not racing. I just want to enjoy the course and complete it. So it took me we took plenty of breaks, and I didn't really think it was that big of a deal to go out and do it by myself.
Yeah, he really didn't think it was that big of a deal at all. And I was like, this is going to be so much harder, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, I just got to do it. I was like, okay, there's no draft packs. There's no people cheering. It's just going to be me. And he did it.
Fatty, I don't know without the carrot of the race itself that I could complete that thing. I'd probably just go, I've seen all this, been there, done that. Just not putting somebody out in front of you or a crew waiting at Twin Lakes alternate, holding out, your next feed bag, or somebody cheering, or I don't know that I could I don't know if I could go out there alone and ride around that place.
I have experience in trying, Hottie, and you're absolutely right. So in 2020, the year that the race did not happen, Lisa and I went out, a random weekend, kind of close to race day, and the two of us went and rode what is now the actual official course, because we went on the workaround. And you know that she and I are 9 to 10 hour racers on race day. We finished in 12 and a half hours that day. It's not like we were trying to go slow. We were trying to go. The fact is, minus race energy, minus a crowd, minus a motivated crew that is telling you, go, 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 go. You got to get this done in time. It is a lot. The motivation has to come strictly from within, and it is a completely different thing. So, hearing, Mark, that you did this, and Sara, I'm actually interested in your part of this story, because you had to act as a substitute for the motivational energy that says, keep on going and do this thing. What was it like from your perspective? Saying, helping Mark do this redemption ride, as you call it.
Yeah, well, like I said, I can't say that I was the most supportive in the beginning when he came up with this idea, because I was like, this is, to me, just a recipe for defeat again, because to go out and do it by yourself, like we talked about, presents so many other variables that can make your day go bad. But he really wanted to do it, so I was like, all right, let's do it. We contact our 2 friends that had done Leadville a couple years ago, but by the end, Mark had dropped them and they were back in their van and they were driving to Leadville by the end. But I would say the hardest part for me was we got to Pipeline inbound, and he was kind of hitting more of a mental block, not really a physical block at that point. And he was like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And I was like, well, just give it some time. If you want to go get pizza and beer right now, we can go do that, but give it some time. Think about it. He ate like a whole bag of salt and vinegar chips. And then he's like, all right, I'm going. We're like, okay, let's just at least make it to the bottom of Powerline. Get a little bit further than you did the last time. And by the time he got to the bottom of Powerline, there's these big clouds coming over. It's pouring rain. It was like 48 degrees. It was cold that day. And he's like, I'm going for it. We're like, okay, I'll see you on the other side. So I drive over I was going to meet him at the May Queen, or like bottom of Turquoise Lake. And then I got over there and I was like, it's so cold. He's going to call it at the bottom of Sugarloaf. So I drive up there and he's like, nope, I'm good. I got this. And he pedaled by himself the whole last like 30 miles because he was just dropping everyone by that point.
Oh,
there was no support other than us just being in the cars chasing him.
Which is an important kind of support, but I mean, when you talk about redemption ride, that really is the right name for this. You showed that, yeah, you got a lot of deep digging in the whole Leadville dig deep there, Mark. That's awesome.
And I wanted to quit again at Pipeline inbound, the same spot, and my back was really, really aching, and my hamstrings were incredibly tight. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I sat down in the chair and I'm like, this is the same place I quit last time. Like, I didn't have, rhabdo or dark pee or anything, but it was just mentally, it was really, really tough. And luckily the salt and vinegar potato chips really perked me up.
Yeah, that's a secret.
And it just rained the whole way up Powerline, and it was freezing. But I didn't care, and I rode, from Powerline all the way to the finish by myself. My feet were probably numb for about 2 hours, the last couple hours. But I loved every minute of it. It was great. And Sara said, your goal should be to have a PR from Carter Summit inbound to the finish line. And I was like, yeah, that's a great goal, to make sure you leave plenty in the tank. It's different than race day. You're going to empty the tank. But I did. I was able to, there's some Strava segment called the home stretch, and I think it's 12 miles. And I'd done it maybe 4 or 5 times. And I got a PR on it, so.
Congrats.
And I crossed the finish line, and they were there cheering, and there were a couple of people walking down the street that stopped for me, and I crossed the exact place that I was supposed to.
So this is the Monday after the 100 run. I'm wondering, on the course, what markings were out there? I mean, maybe you don't need them at this point, but were there ribbons still out there? For sure.
Okay,
so the mountain bike ribbons were still in place? Or were there run ribbons? And what were you following?
Well, the run, because I believe the run goes down Powerline. So
does.
There were some run, yeah.
But the run also goes to Hope Pass, and you don't want to go up there.
No.
No, I had loaded we at this point I had done the course three times, and I had to load it and loaded on my Wahoo, so I was good.
Yeah, but Fatty's done it 24 times, and he missed a turn during the.
that has nothing to do with course markings. That just has to do with me being a terrible navigator.
Well, here's an interesting side story. The story about Alex Howes, and he got his foot snagged on a piece of barbed wire in the fence.
And took down Todd Wells in the process. Yes, we remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I spotted that outbound. It's right after the fire burn station area when you hang a right going toward Columbine, you hang a right on the 2-track right before the Pipeline 8 station. I spotted it and I said, man, that's got to be the spot. And I saw it again on the way back home. I didn't stop to fix it then. And then I told Alex via Instagram, I said, I think I found the spot that snagged you. And he said, yeah, that's the snare. So Sarah and I went back last week and we pushed the fence back over, took some pictures and sent it to him. And he was grateful.
All right. You saved someone from
I hope.
Another face plant. So good for you on that. So you now, one officially, one unofficially, have done the Leadville 100. That is awesome. I mean, that means you have it burned bright into your memory how it is. And I want to get now to why you are in town, why you are close to my house, which is last weekend you did the Park City Point to Point, which a lot of people think of as being roughly equivalent to doing the Leadville 100. And I will say, when I look side by side, my times in a year that I've done both are within a few minutes of each other. They take about the same amount of time to do, but are otherwise, in my head, completely different. How did the Leadville 100 is 105 miles of mixed surface riding. Park City Point to Point is 78-ish miles. The course changes from time to time, but it's about the same amount of time. Almost entirely single track. Some of it wonderful, some of it rocky with embedded chunky stuff and some Mars or moon dust that you're riding through. It's a very, very different kind of day. How would you compare it as someone who has done each of them for the first time within a month of each other?
I would say fitness-wise, like the fitness from Leadville is going to get you through that course. But if you have just we've been doing long aerobic gravel rides on our gravel bikes. We haven't been doing super chunky technical stuff. So it wasn't really like the cardiovascular system wasn't trained for us. It was upper body. My hands, coming down one of those last descents, I had to stop and pull over because I was like, I don't even know if my fingers are pushing on the brakes. Like I can't even feel my forearms anymore. It's just such an upper body brutal beatdown. And if you're into that kind of riding, it's amazing. The views are gorgeous. It's nice single track. The fitness from Leadville, if you've trained for Leadville, it's going to get you across the finish line at the point to point. But it is just a different style of riding for sure. It's a true mountain bike race.
Yeah, they say, Leadville is the roadies mountain bike race. Well, Park City Point to Point is the mountain bikers bike race. Yeah.
Like
roadies will not survive.
Yeah. In point to point, there's no strategy. Whereas like Leadville, it's like, okay, we're coming down power line. Let's get a group. Let's work together. Let's draft each other. There's more strategy involved. Point to point is just, you just keep on pedaling and you're by yourself. We rode together. We foolishly were like, let's just go have fun.
We were very naive and said, this is just for fun. There's no stress.
So we're going to have like a picnic under a tree. Well, that definitely made the race so much longer for us time-wise, where we were like 11 and a half hours in and we're like, we should be at the finish line by now. And so it kind of drug out the 78 miles. But you just got to prepare for that. The brutal, I just call it the brutal beatdown of the upper body that it is, that Leadville doesn't offer.
Yeah, I will say that I think I mentioned this to you when you were asking, well, what is the point to point like? I said, well, I've done the Leadville 100 dozens of times, literally, but the Park City Point to Point race is the only race that has ever made me cry.
Well, you did it on a rigid single speed. I was thinking about you all day. I was like, I don't think I can trust anything he says anymore. Why would he ever do that?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that question. I think it was to make a point, and I have no idea what the point is that I was trying to make.
You did it.
Anyway, they're very different kinds of races, but you two have shown that, in a relatively short time, going from being, triathletes to mountain bikers with some, what I would say, very impressive technical chops as well as great discipline in your first year. I mean, you've really shown what an awesome path there is for someone who says, hey, we want to do the Leadville 100. Let's figure out how to do it, to actually getting it done. That's awesome.
Thank you. That's a really nice compliment, especially coming from you. We've just dorked out on your podcast all year. like even going back the 5 seasons, I've probably listened to all of them at this point. So the information you guys provide is so crucial too for people to toe the line and feel confident about what they're stepping up to.
So you've listened to 130 something hours of this show.
Probably.
Is it enough? Is that enough?
And probably the 3-hour compilation episode a couple times.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Oh, time to make a new one of those, I think.
Are both of you lining it up again at the Leadville Trail 100?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Like, we love the family, the community, and it really does just feel like such a grassroots event still, in a way of you show up and people want to get to know you. They want to know your name. They want to know your story. And for me, like, we don't have kids. Mark does, but they're all grown now. But like, we don't have a lot of people at the house. So it's like to step into this community and have a bunch of people a part of your family is huge. And it really feels like a home for us, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, when we first got to the first night of camp, and it was our first experience with a race organization, and they used the word family, I thought it was kind of cheesy and cliche. But over the period of the camp and all of the events, it really does feel like that, because the race organizers are so welcoming and nice, and so are the other racers, and it's very different from a big conglomerate like Ironman, where you're just you feel like you're just a number.
For sure. They're not trying to help you get to the finish line. Like, you paid your entry fee, and so you're a part of the race. But
so, yeah, Sarah got her coin. Well, she got 2 coins at Silver Rush, so she's in for next year. And I got a lottery coin at Silver Rush. I'm really lucky with raffles and things, so I got my lottery coin. So we're both definitely doing it. And obviously, I can't wait to actually become an official finisher. It's just really fired me up to train. I'm about to start, I haven't told Sarah, but I'm about to start dieting so I can get to the right weight before the base training season starts. And we plan on using Cody again as our coach. The training plan was fantastic and it was very achievable. And yeah, we're super stoked to do it again.
Well, to me, it feels like you two, I mean, if anyone's ever had a great first year, you two are it. So thanks for listening to the show, and thanks for telling us your story.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Are you going to finish? Tell me that. I won't quit. I commit. I won't quit. Would you stand up and say that? So I know you believe me. I commit. I won't quit. I'll see you at the finish line, every one of you.
A great pair of stories there from Sara and Mark. We're glad Mark pulled the plug in the end. He's lucky that he lives close to Leadville, so a return to finish the ride was within his reach. And I think even Ken Klober would agree that Mark is no quitter and that he lived up to that pre-race commitment, the Klober oath, if you will, to cross that finish line.
Finish doing that ride when it is not a race day and there is not that race energy around you. I swear it is 20% harder. You heard Mark say that he thinks he was experiencing the early onset of rhabdomyolysis. Did I say that right? I'm not sure. What he did say with certainty was that he failed with his nutrition, which is a lesson for all of us. There are a lot of things we can control and things we can't control on race day. And we can absolutely control our eating and our drinking, and that starts with having plenty of both on hand. Whether you're training or racing, you should be having the feed stocking you up with drink mixes and other fuels.
None of us is perfect with the eating and drinking, but the feed is the fail-safe for making sure your pockets or top tube bag, your bottles or hydration pack are always full with your hand-picked nutrition products. While it's on us to open those packages and ingest these race-fueling products, leave it to the feed to be your supplier.
Yeah, for instance, my favorite fuel is Glue Energy. Primarily, I take in gels for calories. Occasionally, I like to change flavors, but it's mostly the same. Now, I could go running all over town looking for the gels that keep me going, but frankly, I'd rather do a puke-inducing set of intervals on my trainer than go on a nutrition treasure hunt. Instead, I leave that work to the feed. They know what I like, and whenever I'm running low, I just let them know. They resupply me.
So put your nutrition on autopilot by checking out the feed. And again, they are extending a nice discount to our listeners. Claim your $80 in annual credit at thefeed.com/Leadville. Register your email and verify your phone number. Then spend your first credit of $20 right away.
Let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. Hottie and I are on social media. On Instagram, it's at Michael Houghton, and I'm at Eldon Nelson. Of course, we are both on the Facebook Leadville 100 mountain bike page. And if you want to have a conversation, a little bit more than just a post and a reply, join our Slack channel. You'll find a link to it over at leadville.fm/Slack.
If you're enjoying the show, go to wherever you listen, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and to see all the ways you can find the show, it's leadville.fm. Now, good luck in your riding, racing, and recovery. Thanks for listening, and we will see you at the start line.